Hello, everyone. In this session, I am going to discuss chapter number 10, Monopoly. So, these are the learning objectives. Explain how monopolies come into existence and why they must reduce their prices to sell more, unlikely under perfectly competitive market structure where each firm will face the same price. Describe how the profit maximizing output and price are determined by a monopolist. Explain 5 grounds on which monopolists can be criticized. Explain the significant difference between monopoly and perfect competition. So remember, I told you in chapter number 8, I believe, that there are 4 market structures: perfect competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopoly. So two extremes are perfect competition on the one hand, that is pure competition, and no competition, that is monopoly. So now I'm going to discuss the other extreme of the market structure, and then I will also in the same chapter compare with the pure competitive market structure or perfect competitive market structure. Explain 3 grounds on which monopolies can be defended. Discuss ways that government can change the behavior of monopolies. So basically, we'll talk about government regulations. So what is a monopoly? So monopoly basically is a market in which a single firm, that is the monopolist, is a sole producer of a product for which there is no close substitutes. So basically, if you remember, in perfect competition, there were large number of firms, small firms. In this market, that is in monopoly market, there's only one seller, there's only one producer. So there's no distinction between firm and industry. So this is technically a one firm industry. So there's only one firm in the industry. So I don't have to draw 2 separate diagrams, one representing one typical firm and the other diagram representing the whole industry. That is when we add all those firms. So the industry diagram is also a firm diagram as well, because there's only one firm in this market. Barriers to entry. Now the question arises when I say that this is a market structure where there's only one firm. So why other firms are not, coming into this business? Why there is only one firm in this industry? So the reason, of course, is barriers to entry. That's not easy to enter this market. And there are 3 types of barriers. Number one, technical barriers, such as sole ownership of a resource. And by resource, I mean any input or any factor of production. So if a firm owns a specific input that is required to produce that product, no other firm can produce because they own that special input, and that is the reason they have a monopoly power. The producer has a monopoly power because there's only one firm that can produce that specific product. Second, legal barriers such as public franchise, licenses, patents, and copyright. So because of these restrictions, new firms cannot enter this market. Economic barriers as well. By economic barriers, I mean when the long run average total cost is decreasing if you produce more. So if the production structure is such that when you produce more, it costs you less, then only those farms or only one farm will stay in the business whose scale is really large. So large farms or farm can only stay in the market. A small size farm will be out of the market or out of the competition. Why? Because their cost is higher than those farms who are producing on large scale. So sometimes economies of scale is also considered as a barrier. That is what we call economic barrier. So these are three types of of business entry, barriers to entry. Sorry. Now these are three examples of these three barriers to entry. Computer operating system is basically a technical barrier. Sole ownership of a resource, so therefore new firms cannot enter. Commercial aircraft manufacturing, economic barrier. Economies of scale. You can't find 500 different small firms producing one commercial aircraft. It requires huge initial investment. And if you do this and if you produce on large scale, then your cost will be lower. If you produce just one or two aircraft, your cost would be maybe millions of dollars. So small firms cannot compete. So this is economic barrier. Third, West Coast wild salmon fishing. This is legal barriers. Anyone cannot go and and go and fish there. There are legal barriers. You need license permit to perform this task, and therefore those, or if there's only one farm or few farms who have these licenses are allowed, and therefore they have a monopoly power. So normally, yeah, they have a monopoly. Why use the word they? Because sometimes what happens that there are four farms and they collude and act as a monopoly. So I know that initially I said in monopoly market structure there's only one firm, but it is possible that you have two or three firms and they collude and have a monopoly power as well. That is a special market structure called oligopoly market structure that we'll discuss in chapter number 11. So here we are assuming that there's only one firm. Sometimes there are two firms, but each firm has a monopoly power in a specific area as well. So maybe there are two phone companies, one in Toronto and one is Calgary. Maybe they have a monopoly power in Calgary and the other company has a monopoly power in Toronto. There's only one firm there, but if you combine as a whole country, there are two firms. So in that fashion, you could have a monopoly power as well. But here in this chapter, I'm assuming that there's only one firm, just single firm industry. Okay, because if you have more than one firm, then one possibility is that these firms collude and form a monopoly. But that is not always the case. There are other possibilities as well. These few firms might start competing among each other, and that will actually create competition. In monopoly, we don't have any competition. So that is another possibility. That is why in order to be more specific, the market is a monopoly market structure. We assume that there's only one firm in the market for that specific product. Now, these are the characteristics of a monopolist, price maker. So monopolists set the price, unlike perfectly competitive market structure. Remember, in perfect competition, firms were given price level that was determined in the market, in the industry. So in the industry, the market demand curve, market supply curve will give the price, let's say $20, and this $20 will be taken as given by all firms in that market. They have to sell at the same $20 price. Why? Because each firm size is very small and there are a large number of firms. So they can't charge higher than $20 because no one will buy from that firm. And why they charge lower price if they can sell all what they want at $20. So price will be the same in perfectly competitive market structure. So if you remember, I will erase this diagram. This is a perfectly competitive market structure. If you remember, I draw demand curve like this. It's a horizontal line, perfectly elastic demand curve. Why? Because this is the price that each firm will face. There's no change in price. So if the firm under perfect competitive market structure wants to sell more, they can sell more, but at the same price, and they can easily sell. Why? because their size is very small. So if they are producing only 5 units, yes, they can sell 6 units at the same price. Okay, so this is in perfect competition. Now let's see what would happen in monopoly market structure. So can set either price or quantity sold, but not both. So monopolists can either set price or set quantities. And we'll discuss that the monopolist will actually first determine its level of production and then set the price according to the demand curve, which I'm going to discuss in a moment. Since the monopolist is the industry, one farm industry, it faces the market demand for the product. So I am drawing this real quick, right? You don't have to draw, just to refresh your memory. So I'm drawing the diagram for perfectly competitive market structure. If you remember, this is the demand curve in perfect competitive market structure. This is the marginal cost curve. This is a firm diagram. And the industry diagram would look like this. This is a demand, downward sloping demand. Why? Because as a whole, they face downward sloping demand curve. As a whole, all producers combined, yes, if all these producers together want to sell more, they have to reduce the price in order to sell more. But for all of them at the same time, not for one specific farm. And then we have this supply curve upward sloping. And remember, and this is the equilibrium quantity for the whole industry. Now, since monopolist is a one farm industry, so that monopolist will face this downward sloping demand curve. This demand curve will not exist anymore because there's only one farm. So this is what is written on this slide, that since the monopolist is the industry, it faces the market demand for the product. And by market demand, I mean a downward sloping demand curve. And that is why it is written as demand is a downward sloping curve. Why? Because this monopolist is a large farm, very large farm, not a small farm, very large farm. And therefore, if this large farm wants to sell more, yes, this farm will have to decrease its price. And that is why we have a downward demand curve. So must decrease the price in order to sell more. Why? Because there's only one farm and that is very large, not a small. So this is a simple example. Now, if you look at this example where you have given data and data, so quantities in millions, 1 to up to 10, then price per case 20 to now notice the moment I see this column, this second column, the moment I see this column, I know that this is not a perfectly competitive market structure. How do I know? By looking at this second column, because in perfectly competitive market structure, price is constant. Price is always 20, 20, 20 or 19, 19, 90. Price is fixed. But here you can see price is decreasing. Why? Because when you decrease the price, then you can sell more from your 1 unit to 2 units, 2 million units, from 2 million units to 3 million units. The monopolist will have to decrease its price. So price is continuously decreasing when output is increasing. Okay. So that is one thing. Remember, I'm writing here and I'll delete, so don't get confused. If you remember, in perfectly competitive market structure, price, which was a constant number, was also equal to marginal revenue, if you remember. So price and marginal revenue will always be the same. And that is why, if you remember, I had drawn this diagram where I say the firms will face this perfectly elastic demand curve that is also equal to marginal revenue. That is also equal to average revenue. So average revenue and this price, they both are the same thing in all 4 market structures. So you don't need to worry about average revenue. What you need to see that in the perfect competition, price equal to marginal revenue. Why? Because price is constant. So if price is constant and when you calculate marginal revenue, you will get the same answer, that is price. Always. This is mathematical property. But notice price is not constant in this data. So if price is not constant, we can calculate marginal revenue and average revenue again and see what is the relationship. So in this table, I am now calculating all these three variables: total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. So first we calculate total revenue, that is this total revenue. The formula is price times quantity, simple. Price times quantity, that is 1 times $20, 2 times 19, $38 million, 3 times 18, 54, 68, 80, 90, 98, and 104. So I've calculated total revenue. Now I calculate average revenue. The formula of average revenue, which is written here, total revenue divided by output. Total revenue we have already calculated, and we just divide by output, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 20 divided by 1 is 20. 38 divided by 2 is 19. 34 divided by 3, 18. 68 divided by 4, 17. 80 divided by 5, 60. 15, 16, 15, 14, and 13. So I've calculated average revenue as well. Notice that average revenue column is exactly same as price column. That's why I told you that it doesn't matter which market you are examining, price and average revenue, they both are always equal. Basically, average revenue is another name of price. Okay. Now calculate marginal revenue. And we have already calculated marginal revenue in perfect competitive market structure. We will do it again here. So what is marginal revenue? The formula is change in total revenue divided by change in output. So although this column is not, this information is not given. So if you are not producing anything, then, oops, sorry, if you are not producing anything, zero, then your whatever be your your price, whatever, if it's, let's say it's 21 or whatever, your total revenue will be zero, right? So basically when you produce 1 unit from zero, so it's a change from 0 to 1, your revenue will increase from 0 to 20. So that is why 20 is given here. Then you have to see the change in total revenue, change in. So from 20 to 38, so the change is $18. Your total revenue increases by $18 when you increase your output by 1 unit, only 1 unit, not 2 units. So from 1 to 2 is a 1 unit increase in output, total revenue will increase by 18. So I write 18 here. And then from 38 to 30, I don't know what is it, 54, from 38 to 54, that is 16. The difference, 54 to 68, 14 difference, 12 difference, 10 difference. And then from 90 to 98, 8, that is increase in 8. And then from 98 to 104, 6. Right. So total revenue, as long as total revenue is increasing, your marginal revenue is positive, but it's also decreasing. Now I want you to compare price column and marginal revenue column and see what you find. So there are 2 important findings. Number 1, unlike perfectly competitive market structure where I told you that price is always equal to marginal revenue, this is not the case. This is not the case here. You can see that price is 19 and then marginal revenue is 18, not 19. Price is 18, marginal revenue is 16. So they are not equal. But another important thing is that price is greater than marginal revenue. 19 is greater than 18, 18 is greater than 16, 17 is greater than 14, 16 is greater than 12, and 15 is greater than 10, right? So basically, price is always higher than marginal revenue, except at the first level of output. Only at this point, you can see price and marginal revenue, they both are equal. So at the very first unit, total revenue and marginal revenue are equal. But as you produce more, price will always be greater than marginal revenue. Okay. So now I am going to show you using this diagram, and I have also written here why this is so. Why price is higher than your marginal revenue. So look at this diagram first, and so notice that I have drawn this demand curve, which is a red line. This is demand curve. It's a downward, it's a downward sloping line. Okay, this is the demand curve that this monopolist is facing. Now I also write D equal to AR. because price line, this red line is price line, also called price line. This is nothing but average revenue curve. Same thing, average revenue curve, price line, demand curve, same thing. Now marginal revenue, I'm not saying price is also equal to marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is less than price. I showed you in the previous table. So I draw marginal revenue, lower than price level. So you can see marginal revenue is less than price line, less than price line. Why this is so, we are going to show you here first, and then I'll give you the important relationship. Okay, less than price line. Why this is so, we are going to show you here first, and then I'll give you the important relationship. Okay, so let's assume that we start from price 16. I'm not marking because it's very difficult to mark here. So assume price, let me mark here. So hold on. So suppose price is $16. Okay, and you can see $16 here. Okay, so when price is 16, what is the quantity demand? I can use the demand curve and read this number. So I go to the demand curve somewhere here, and then I go here. So this is 5. So when price is 16, I know the demand would be 5 units or whatever, 1 million units or whatever, but 5. So I can easily calculate total revenue. 5 times 16 is 80. So I calculated 80. So basically, when this monopolist is selling 5 units, and each unit, the monopolist charges price 16 per unit. Okay, so each unit price is $16. So this monopolist is earning $80. This is not profit. This is total revenue. We haven't discussed cost. So $80. Now suppose this monopolist wants to sell more. This is only possible if this monopolist decreases its price level. Let's say the monopolist decreases its price to $15. Okay. So what is the new price? New price is $15. So I'm writing here. So price is now not 16 but $15. Okay. So price is $15. Now see what happens. When price decreases from 16 to $15, using the demand curve once again, I can see what is the quantity demand. So now quantity demand that increases by, I'm sorry, hold on. I don't know what happened, but I'll fix this, right? So now, so price decreases from 16 to 15. Now I want to calculate what is now total revenue. So if I calculate total revenue when price is 15, I know at 15 price, the quantity demand is 6 units. So 6 times 50 is 90 units. So I write 90 units here. $90, not units, dollars. So total revenue is 90. When price was 16, the total revenue was 10, if you see, or 80, sorry, if you see here. So when you sell one additional unit from 5 to 6, what is the change in total revenue? That is marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is the change in total revenue when you produce one more unit. So when this monopolist produces from 5 units to 6 units, total revenue will increase from $80 to $90. That is marginal revenue, change in total revenue would be $10. Not this price, 15. So at $15 price, marginal revenue is not, so see, this is $15 price, see? So this is $15 price. So $15 price, this is $15 price. And then you go down to marginal revenue. This is your marginal revenue, which is 10. That is why marginal revenue is less than price. So when price is 15, somewhere here, the marginal revenue is 10. But why this is happening? Because in perfect competition, when you increase price, marginal revenue will also be the same as your price level. Why this is so? The reason is as follows. So let me give you the reason. The reason is when you sell one additional unit, because your demand quantity demanded increases, right, from say 5 to 6. So when you sell one additional unit, you will get $15. Why? Because price is 15. Price decreases from 16 to 15, and because of this decrease, because 15 is price is 15, that is why you are selling one more unit. So one additional unit will give you $15. So you make extra additional $15 here, right? That is additional $50. But I'm saying that this additional $15 revenue is not your marginal revenue. Why? Because when you sell 6 units, so the sixth one, the last unit, will give you $15. But for the first 5 units, earlier you were earning $16, but now you are earning only $15, because when you reduce the price, you reduce the price for all units that you are going to produce, not only for the last unit. So you are actually losing $1 on each unit, and there were 5 units. So basically, you are losing $5 as well. Earlier, before increasing the production from 5 units to 6 units, uh, you were earning actually $16 per unit, but now you are earning only $15. So there's a $1 loss on each 5 units. So 5 units times $1 is $5. So you're losing $5, and you are getting 15 additional dollars. So 15 additional dollar minus $5 a loss, that is $10. So your revenue, increase in revenue, is only $10, not $15. That is why I'm telling you that when price is 15, your additional revenue, increase in revenue, is not $15, is $10. Why? Because you are losing money on the previous units that you were earlier selling at a higher price. Okay. So now I will give you one rule, and that is a mathematical rule. As long as your demand curve that you can see as a red line is a linear line, linear, right? Linear relationship. So it's not a curve. The slope of this line is constant. If this is the case, then let me open a uh, let me open a blank whiteboard. So now I'm going to show you the relationship between demand curve, that is price line, and marginal revenue. And this is always the case, right? So if I draw, let's say if I draw demand curve like this, suppose, and let's say this number is 10, price 10, and let's say this number is 1000. Okay. Suppose these are the two extremes. This is the price line. So I write demand equals to average revenue. I don't need to write price because I've already written in price here. But you could have written demand equal to price equal to average revenue. That is technically correct. So this is price line. I know marginal revenue is lying below this price line. But what is the rule? The rule is as follows. Always divide this whole line into two equal parts. So the mid of this must be, since this is 1000, so must be somewhere here, 500. This must be 500. And I know that it starts marginal revenue and price at the zero level of 1 unit is always equal at here. So I start from 10 and then I intersect this line here. So like this. Now, why I extended this marginal revenue curve below the x-axis? Because marginal revenue can also be a negative number. Because if you decrease your price, and suppose if your total revenue is decreasing instead of increasing, so you are losing money. So when you are losing money, then marginal revenue would be negative. So suppose when you reduce your price, earlier you were earning $100 as total revenue, now you are earning $90 only. So 90 minus 100 would be minus 10. So you are losing money. So your marginal revenue, your additional revenue is in negative number. So that is why I cross this line, a horizontal line showing that marginal revenue can be a negative number. Demand cannot be a negative. That is why I stop here at 1000. Okay. Now, so this is the journal rule. So mathematically, we say this: marginal revenue curve actually bifurcates this triangle into two parts. Bifurcates actually it means you have to divide anything into two equal parts. So equal is embedded in this word, right? So I am drawing this margin revenue in such a way so that this triangle is divided into two equal parts. And I know it's equal parts because I'm dividing exactly in the middle of this line. Okay. But you don't need to worry about whether it's equal or not equal. What you need to do, this is a general rule, right? That when you draw a demand curve, this is how you draw marginal revenue curve, which always lies below the demand curve. Let me go back to your actual slide. So it will take few seconds because I have to upload again. So just give me a sec. So this is chapter number 10. Let me go to chapter 10. Where's chapter 10? Let me find chapter 10. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is chapter 10. Yep. Okay, so this is chapter 10, and we completed this. Okay, we completed this. Now, so now I'll be more specific. Remember the blank whiteboard I showed you that marginal revenue can also be a negative number, right? And of course, a monopolist will never operate in that region because monopolists will never produce level of output where its marginal revenue is a negative number. Why you are going to produce if your additional revenue is in negative, right? So this is shown here in this diagram. So notice that I had drawn this demand curve. Let me mark so that you know I'm talking about this diagram right now. So this is the demand curve, notice, and then I marginal revenue. See, if this is 22, then it must intersect at this 11 because 22 divided by 2, 11. But they did not extend this curve, right? The authors. So you could have extended this curve like this. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Sometimes it's difficult to write on the screen. Okay. No, I can't. Okay, I don't know. Hold on a second. Let me fix this. Maybe I can do this. Okay, now it should be. No. Okay, if I'm unable to do it, then I won't waste your time. Yeah, no, it's not possible because, yeah. Okay, so leave it. But you can see that I can show you using my this arrow key. So you can extend this margin revenue curve down, right? Why? Because it's possible that, so for example, if this monopolist is producing 12 units of output or 12 million units of output, then you can see the marginal revenue would be a negative number because marginal revenue equal to almost zero, not almost exactly zero when output is 11. So what they are showing in this diagram, what is shown in this diagram is that a monopolist will never produce more than 11 units. So, but if you look at this portion of the demand curve, that is all positive number, the marginal revenue curve, that is positive blue line. This marginal revenue curve corresponds to this portion of the demand curve only, this portion. The dotted line is not useful. The monopolist will never operate on this part of the demand curve. Why? Because this dotted demand curve will give you a negative marginal revenue, and therefore they are not going to produce. Why they are not produce? If you see on the above diagram, above this upper diagram, this diagram, you notice what is happening. When your marginal revenue is positive, notice that your total revenue is increasing. So yes, If you are producing more, if you are producing 2 units, then 4, then 6, then 8, then 10, yes, your marginal revenue is increasing because your total revenue is increasing. Of course, at a decreasing units, then 4, then 6, then 8, then 10, yes, your marginal revenue is increasing because your total revenue is increasing. Of course, at a decreasing rate, marginal revenue. But the moment you reach point A, that is your maximum total revenue. That is at 11 units. If you try to produce 12 units, your total revenue is actually decreasing. Why you are going to produce if you are not making more money? And that is why you will only be operating in this range that is consistent with this demand. Okay. Now, if you remember when we were discussing, let me first erase this. When we were discussing elasticity, I don't remember, I think it's chapter number 4, I told you that if the demand curve is linear, demand curve like this, then you have two portions of the demand curve. So this is exactly the midpoint of the demand curve. And this here, the elasticity is different than here, if you remember, right? So elasticity of demand, you know what is the formula? The formula for elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price of X. Okay. So now notice that in the first part of the demand curve, that is a bold red line, this line, this line in this range only. In this range, notice that output is very low here, where price is very high. Okay. So output low means what? In percentage terms, the change must be very high. You know, if you move from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, it's 100% increase. So in percentages, it's very large number. But price decreases from 20 to 18. This is how I remember. 20 to 18, so it's a very small decrease in percentage. Although the absolute is same. If you move from 0 to 2, it's 2 units. If you move from 20 to 18, it's $2. So it's both 2. It's simple. But in percentages, moving from 0 to 2 is much higher, 200% compared to moving down from 20 to 18. Okay. So 20 to 18 means, I guess, 20%. I don't know. Can you calculate what is the total percentage change? So how you calculate percentage change? So from 20 to 18, right? So 20 minus 18 divided by 18 times 100 times 100. This is how we calculate percentage. So this is just 11%. So the small, sorry, hold on. So if you notice here, let me fix the font. I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Yeah. So I'm erasing this because it's too big. Yeah, 2. Okay. So see, the elasticity is percentage change in QD, which is very high initially, divided by percentage change in price, which is very low. So a low number in the denominator will make this whole ratio very high, and in the numerator is very high. So basically, elasticity is greater than 1 or elastic. So now I can write that this portion is elastic. You don't have to prove every time, right? Just remember this. I forget. So the upper portion is elastic, the bottom is inelastic. So a monopolist will always operate on the elastic part of the demand curve. And that is quite logical. Why logical? Let me give you one example. And this is what we did in chapter number 4, and I hope you remember. So suppose if price decreases, right, and the demand is elastic, you can go and just watch that chapter 4 recorded session. I've already discussed this there. So price decreases and demand is elastic. Elastic means when price decreases a little bit, demand increases in large quantities. What would happen? Your total revenue will increase. So that is why monopolists will operate in this region, because when monopolist reduces its price, they are going to make more money. What happens when price decreases and your demand is inelastic? Like cigarettes. So if the seller of a cigarette, which is not a monopoly example, I know. So if price decreases, demand will not increase a lot. Why? Because people are addicted. So they're still, going to buy the same quantity. It doesn't matter, and therefore it's inelastic. So you are not basically attracting these consumers to buy because price is low, because they were already consuming, and therefore your total revenue will actually decrease. So you will never find sales on elastic products with inelastic demand, because anyways people are buying those services. You will always find sales on elastic demand products. Why? Because people are more responsive to prices. If price decreases, they're going to buy more, and therefore they will earn more total revenues, and therefore monopolies will operate in this portion of the demand curve. This is what is written here. Increase total revenue if demand is elastic. Of course, when price decreases, a drop in price, and decreases total revenue if demand is inelastic. So monopolists can only increase the quantity sold by dropping prices. So monopolists will, of course, increase the quantity as long as demand is elastic. This is written here. It will only produce more unit as long as demand is elastic, and will not produce an output where demand is inelastic. So I don't want to waste more time on this topic. I've already discussed this in detail. Now, profit maximizing output of monopolists. How monopolists will determine its profit maximizing level of output. So profits are maximized or losses minimized at an output where marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Remember, P is not equal to MR. So in perfect competition, if you remember, we equated price equal to marginal cost, if you remember, that firms will produce when price equal to marginal cost. Why? Because price is also equal to marginal revenue. But here in monopoly, that is not the case. Price and marginal revenue are not same. So we just remove prices from here. So we say that the monopolist will produce output where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And price must be higher than this, because I told you that price is greater than marginal revenue. So I can write like this, that price is greater. So price is greater than marginal revenue, and marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Why? We are equating these two in order to maximize profit or minimize losses. But price is now greater, not equal to. Diagrammatically, okay. So this is the diagram. Okay, let me go back and show this table. So you just have to do this, and this is simple. So you have quantity, prices, total revenue, total cost is given. I haven't calculated. Average cost you can calculate. Total cost divided by quantity. Marginal cost you can calculate. Marginal revenue you can calculate given total revenue, and total profit or loss, right? And you can see, although if you look at the profit column, you will find two profits that are maximum, this 18 and this 18. Why I picked the red 18? Simply because I am equating marginal revenue equal marginal cost. So this is the case only in this example when you have two numbers equal 18. But the rule is you have to equate marginal revenue and marginal cost. So marginal revenue is here 10, marginal cost is also 10. So that is the profit maximizing output. But in the actual questions, sometimes you don't find equality between marginal revenue and marginal cost. So just find the closest one, right? So suppose if this column is not given, then I would stop here. Why? Because marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, that's fine. But when I go to the next column, suppose 7, then I see marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. That is not possible. So I'll stop here. Are you getting my point? So the rule is that marginal revenue is either greater than or equal to marginal cost. That is the production rule or profit maximizing level of output that you have to check if you can find marginal revenue and marginal cost equal. That is the best point. If you don't, then make sure that you produce up to that point where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. You will stop when marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. Remember, it does not mean, because this is a common error, you just select this. If I ask you suppose if this is not given, you don't have equality, right? Suppose. And so this, okay, so this is basically unit 6, this is unit 7, this is unit 8. If this is the data. And then if I ask you what is the profit maximizing level of output, and suppose you don't see profit column, then you say, okay, I will pick 3 units. This monopolist will pick 3 units. Why? Because marginal revenue 16 is greater than marginal cost. And Naved, you said that if you don't find equality, then find a level of output where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. Yes, but why not you see the 4th unit? 4th unit will also give you marginal revenue greater than marginal cost. 5th unit will also give you marginal revenue greater than marginal cost. So the rule is that if revenue greater than marginal cost, 5th unit will also give you marginal revenue greater than marginal cost. So the rule is that if marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, keep producing more. Where you stop? You stop at the point where either marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, or you stop if the next level of output, that is production, will give you marginal cost greater than marginal revenue. So if you see, I stop at 5 units. Why stop here? Yes, marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. And when I produce one more unit from 5 to 6, I notice that marginal cost is now greater than marginal revenue. So I'll stop at 5. So 3 unit, 4 unit is incorrect. Okay. Now I draw this diagram so this is a typical diagram for a monopolist. Marginal cost curve, average cost curve, demand curve, marginal revenue curve, and everything. I just want to show you 3 information in this diagram that you always remember. So first thing, in order to this monopolist will not set its price. First, this monopolist will determine how many units this monopolist is going to produce in order to maximize its profit or to minimize its losses. So the rule is, I told you, price is equal to, marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So production rule is this, MR equal MC. This is the rule. So you can see from the diagram, this is the point. I can see this is marginal revenue, this is marginal cost. These 2 points are intersecting here. So 6 level of production. So this monopolist will produce at 6 units. Okay. What is the price that this monopolist will charge? Will determine by this demand curve. Monopolist cannot charge any price monopolist wants, right? It will be dictated by this demand curve. But monopolist will first decide how many units to produce, 6 units, and then price. So I go at the 6 units demand curve to this here. So I'll just drop this perpendicular and I find that this should be the price. So I read this price on the vertical axis, so 15. So this monopolist is producing 6 units, charging $15 per unit. So total revenue is 15 times 6, $90. So $90 is the monopolist total revenue, not profit, total revenue. So total revenue is $90. Right? Now, what is the profit? I have to know cost. So the cost curve is also drawn here. You can see average cost curve. So average cost curve here. It looks as if it's slightly incorrect, but I'll fix this problem. Remember, and I told you in chapter number 6, if I'm not wrong, that marginal cost curve always intersects average cost curve at its minimum. So this point is the minimum of average total cost curve. So I'm writing MIN, minimum. So this is the minimum average total cost curve. Okay. Now, what is the average total cost at unit 6 is this, which is slightly higher than the minimum point, right? And I can read this average total cost curve on the vertical axis like this. So this is 12. So per unit cost is $12, and per unit price is always per unit, is $15. So I can easily calculate total cost. If per unit cost is $12, so I have 6 units. So 12 times 6 is my total cost. So I'm writing here. So total cost would be 12 times 6, 72. So 12 times 6 is 72. So $72. And profit is total revenue minus total cost. So 90 minus 72 is $18. But in order to calculate profit in that fashion, so first you calculate total revenue, then total cost using average total cost, and then calculate profit. There is one easier method to calculate profit. Once you have this diagram, this is what you have to do. You can first calculate per unit profit, and you can see here that 15 is per unit price, 15 is per unit price, and 12 is per unit cost. So per unit profit is $3. That is this distance, right? So this distance, let me change the color. It's not visible. Hold on. Okay, give me a sec. So this is this gap is $3. And how many units? 6 units. So 6 times 3 is 18. Same profit. 90 minus 72 is also 18. So basically, I'm calculating this area of this rectangle. That is height times base. So 3 times 6, 12. So I calculated profit using this diagram. Now, what is break-even outputs? By break-even, I mean when profit is 0. And when your profit is 0, when there's no per unit profit. Per unit profit is basically price and average total cost. So if price and average cost, they both are equal, there's no per unit profit, and therefore total profit will also be 0. Here at 6 units, I can see per unit profit is 15 minus 12, 3, because price is greater than average cost. It's not equal. So I will find in the graph, you can see this point where demand curve intersects average total cost, price equal AC. And at this point, price is and average cost both are equal. So at these 2 points, profit is 0. So if you produce this much many units of output 3, profit is 0. And if you produce 9 units, suppose, or 8.5 units, profit is 0. But monopolists will produce here. Okay. So this is all in this diagram and in this slide, basically. Now, criticism of monopolies. Able to make economic profits indefinitely. Why? Because there are barriers to entry. If a monopolist is making abnormal profit, new firms cannot enter the market because of entry barriers. Are productively inefficient. Monopolists will be producing output at a price and charging a price that is higher than minimum average total cost. You can see that is why I have drawn this showed this diagram. Let me erase this. See, actually, the price the monopolist is producing at a price. The price is 15, but look at minimum average total cost is somewhere here, much less than price. So this is not, price is not at the minimum average total cost. And are allocative inefficient as well. How do I know? Because price is greater than marginal cost. You can see from this diagram easily that what is the price? Price is 15. Okay, price is 15, and this is at unit 6. At unit 6, what is marginal cost? Marginal cost is somewhere here, which is well below price level. So price and marginal costs are not equal in this diagram. Create a more unequal distribution of income and wealth within society. Of course, they are charging extra higher prices, so there's a unequal distribution of income. Use their power to practice price discrimination. So this topic we'll discuss in the next recorded session, price discrimination, that when a monopolist charges two different prices for the same product. Because when I ask, examples, and students actually give more often give this example that if you're traveling, you pay higher prices. If you travel, if you are in a business class, and for the economy class, you pay lower prices. That is not price discrimination, because you are talking about two different products. Business class, you have different quality, different menu, different services. In economy class, you have different services. That is not price discrimination. Price discrimination means, which I'm talking about here, of course, there are other forms of price discrimination where cost also plays an important role. But in this price discrimination, I'm going to discuss in the next session in detail that the monopolist is charging two different prices for the same product, exact same product, but you pay two different prices. It may be because of time period. It may be because of additional. Okay, we'll discuss why to waste your time. We'll discuss later, right? Okay, so hold on a second. Okay, I think I have time, so why not just finish this price discrimination as well in the same session. So use their power to participate price discrimination. So let's talk about price discrimination, different forms of price discrimination. So there are three major forms of price discrimination. First degree price discrimination. So I just wrote PDS, price discrimination. Charging the maximum price consumers are willing to pay. This is called perfect price discrimination. That is, the monopolist will charge prices for each unit separately. So they will charge according to your demand, basically. So if you are willing to pay $10 for the first unit and $9 for the second units, then monopolist will charge $19 for two units. First, $10 for first units and $9 for second unit. But you must be thinking how it is possible. For example, if you go to let's say to Walmart, and if you buy 5 packets of chocolates, it's not possible that the cashier would ask you that, okay, first unit is $10, then $9, then $8, then $7. It's not possible. Normally they take the same price. So how they actually practice this perfect price discrimination in reality. So let me again, I'm sorry, I have to just open that blank sheet or whiteboard, whatever you call, and then I think they call it blank whiteboard. So let me do this side and I'll show you here. So this is the example of perfect price discrimination. Okay, so suppose this is the demand curve that this monopolist is facing. Okay, and this is the marginal revenue curve. I know that marginal revenue lies below the marginal or below the demand curve. Sorry, marginal revenue curve. And let me draw marginal cost curve. But this time I'm drawing marginal cost curve as a linear line. I know it's a U-shaped curve, but just for simplicity, so I draw marginal cost curve like this. Suppose this is price, this is quantity. Okay. Now, if this monopolist is not discriminating or using perfect price discrimination and is producing normally, so the output would be this. Why I've chosen this output? Because I know the rule is marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Marginal revenue is marginal cost means this, that this is the price and this is the price. So let me write here 10. Let's say 10. So this monopolist is selling 10 units, charging $10 per unit. $100 total revenue. Now suppose if this, let's say 10. So this monopolist is selling 10 units, charging $10 per unit, $100 total revenue. Now suppose if this monopolist charges prices according to perfect price discrimination, what would happen? See, this monopolist do what? See, so this monopolist would say that, okay, because this monopolist wants for each unit of this output different prices according to this demand graph. So you can see that if you cross this point A, I'm writing point A. If you cross this line, point A, it means, for example, if you charge this price, what is this price? This price, if you read here, right? If you charge this price, you notice that this price is less than marginal cost. So cost of producing this output is more than what consumers are willing to pay. So monopolies will not, sell this output or produce this output. So monopolies will stop here. This is a maximum production level where price is exactly equal to marginal cost. So let's take this price is, let's say, $9. And let's say this is $12, 12 units. Now see what monopolist will do. Actually, technically, what monopolist is doing, monopolist is basically selling these 12 units not at $9 price, at each unit at different prices. So for first unit, according to demand gap, this price, all this demand gap, right? Different prices. But in reality, it's not possible. So this is what monopolists will do. So monopolists will say, okay, you have to get a membership for our store, like Costco. So you have to have a membership. Once you get this membership, then you can buy these 12 units for only $9 instead of $10. So it looks as if that you are getting a deal, right? There are two problems. One thing is that you have to buy more, not less. So in Costco, you cannot buy one soap alone, right? You have to buy 24, a pack of 24 soaps. So basically, you have to buy in large quantities, number one. So suppose if you buy like this, so what is your total revenue? Look at this. So first thing is that 9 times 12 is how much? 108. So 108. So first you get this $110 total revenue, that is 9 times 12. What is the membership fee? Membership fee would be, if I write number here as well, let's take this number is 11. Okay. Let's take this number is 11. Okay. So the membership fee that this monopolist will charge is $12. So this monopolist would say that, okay, first you have to buy a membership of $12 and then you can buy 12 units at $9. What is this $12? Where does this $12 come from? $12 actually come from this area of this whole triangle. So the area of this triangle is 11 minus 9. So this is the formula, half times base times height. So half base is 12, height is 11 minus 9, 2. So 2 cancels out, so 12. So that is $12. So now technically what monopolist is doing, this monopolist is actually getting the whole area of this consumer surplus. This is what we call consumer surplus, and this area as well. So this whole thing is gone from you. So actually, this monopolist is capturing your consumer surplus and also the price $9. So the total revenue you can see is $120. So this way, monopolist actually is price discriminating. So you can't see that you are paying different prices for different units, but actually you are paying. Why? Because you are also paying the membership fee. Okay, so this is one way monopolists will actually price discriminate. So that is one. So in this perfect price discrimination, there's no consumer surplus. consumer is not getting any surpluses. I've also heard people saying that, why not just go to Costco, and they also give you several samples of different foods, right? And people are eating that food and they're very happy. And actually, Costco is not serving you these foods. Actually, you have paid for that food that you are eating actually. So basically, you pay the money and then you travel to that place and eat. But this is human psychology that we think that is free. It's not free because you are paying membership fee as well. Okay. The second, so first degree price discrimination, and then we go to second degree price discrimination, and similarly third degree price discrimination. So let me open that file, chapter 10, share. Just give me a second. It will take few seconds to upload. And I want to open the same slide. So I'm just searching that slide. So it saves your time. Here it is. So that is first degree price discrimination, right? Or we call perfect price discrimination. Second degree price discrimination is among units purchased, for example, lower price for higher volumes. That is also possible. So this is simply basically what we call in our, we use this regular term, discounts. So if you buy in large quantities, you may get some discounts. That is also a form of price discrimination. Third degree price discrimination is basically a price discrimination among different buying groups, different prices for different groups. For example, iPhone, Apple iPhone. When the new iPhone released, the price is very high. Why? Because there are some customers who want to pay very high price, that is price plus premium, to buy that latest mobile, and therefore their demand is pretty inelastic. That is, they want it even at a higher price. So the Apple will sell first to those customers. Then after 6 months, those who are not willing to pay that premium, they will buy at a lower price. So you buy the same product, exact same product, but with different prices. Why? Because there are two groups. One group that has a very inelastic demand. They have to buy it because it's a new phone, and therefore they pay higher prices. Those whose demand is elastic, they are not willing to pay that high price. They will have to wait, and then they will buy at a lower price. In that fashion, monopolist will maximize actually his or her profit. So let's take one example of third degree price discrimination and show you how monopolists will charge higher prices. So remember, even the third degree price discrimination is in your bus passes in Red Deer. So the Red Deer Transit will charge you lower price if you are a student. Why? Because your demand is elastic. So if the price is very high, you would prefer walking, or you prefer rent an apartment near to your school. But for those adults who are working, they don't mind paying slightly higher price for transit. So the Red Deer or Calgary Transit price discriminates between these two groups. One with inelastic demand, that is adults who are working, and one with elastic demand with students. But they also want to make sure that there's no, what we call, there's no price arbitrage, or there's no reselling of that bus passes. That is, the students cannot buy from the transit and sell to adults at a slightly higher prices. In order to stop this reselling or price arbitrage, the Calgary or Red Deer Transit makes sure that they change the color of the student and adult pass. They sometimes write student, or there's some distinction so that adults cannot use that pass. If adults can use a student pass, then they cannot successfully price discriminate. The other condition that monopolists should be able to distinguish between these two groups. So they might ask you to give me your student ID or prove that you are studying at a college or school or university, right? So that is another important condition, that monopolists should be able to distinguish between two separate groups with inelastic and elastic demand. And third possibility is that Red Deer or Calgary Transit should have a monopoly power. There are no other firms who are also selling the same product, because if you charge higher price to adults, then adults might go to other supplier. So there are three conditions. Number one, the monopolist, the producer must have a monopoly power, and that is why we have price discrimination in this market structure. Second, that this monopolist should be able to segregate the market, that is, should be able to distinguish between different or among different groups. And third, there's no possibility of resale. So this is the example of third degree price discrimination. So if you look at this, so this first we discuss with the diagram C. So C diagram is without any price discrimination. Okay, so this is the total demand, price $15, total is 80. So now both hold on. So both all types of buyers are paying $15 per unit, and total is 80 units. So what is the total revenue? Is 1200, right? That is 15 times 8. Yeah, 15 is 120, and this is 80, so 1200. So 1200 is total revenue without any price discrimination. Suppose if this monopolist is able to distinguish between two different groups, one with low elasticity and the other one is high elasticity, that is inelasticity or elasticity. So I have drawn these two diagrams, A and B. You can see in diagram A, the demand curve is pretty steeper, pretty inelastic. Inelastic means that they really need this product, and even if price goes up, they're not going to reduce their demand a lot. So notice that monopolists will charge $18 instead of 15 to this group, because they know their demand is inelastic, right? They have to buy. And for B, where the elasticity of demand is very elastic, flatter, these people are very responsive to this, price responsive. That is, if price changes, they're not going to buy. Changes means if price increases. So in order to attract more buyers with the elastic demand, the monopolists will charge actually lower prices, only 12 instead of 15. Why? Because when they lower, the demand increases a lot. And when they charge higher prices to this group, the demand decreases less. Now see what is happening. So in A, 18 is the price and demand is 45. Okay. So 18 times 45 is 810, where it is calculated here. So that is total revenue in this market, or high inelastic demand market, or adult market. Let's say this is a student market. So 12 times 40 is 480. So 480 is the total revenue in the second market. So if you add 810 and 480, you will get 1250, which is more than 1200. So by price discrimination, this monopolist is making $50 extra, simply because of two different groups of consumers or buyers. Okay, so this is called third degree price discrimination. Now, some example, you have to just read the practice questions, go through those practice questions. So for example, airline industry also price discriminate, not comparing business and economy class. Even within the same economy class, even the passenger next to you must have paid, or may have paid lower or higher than you. It depends on the timing of the booking. There's so many other factors as well. So yes, airline industry or these firms price discriminate. The product is same, but they charge different prices. Restaurants, they charge different prices. They have kid meals, same product, same cost, but they charge you lower prices. Sometimes timing is also very important. So if they know that at this time they are not going to sell any, they have very fewer number of customers, they might reduce the price slightly in order to encourage them, right? For example, senior citizens discounts. So these are different types of price discrimination. Then this is a comparison between perfect competition and monopoly market. So I'm now going to go through each slide one by one. What I'm going to do, I will just show you first this diagram and then this diagram, right? And it is self-explanatory. So I'm not going to spend more time on discussing this. So you can see this is a comparison. What I've done here, if you notice, the first I will let's say with which color I should choose. Okay, so let's take first red color. So I'm using red color to explain monopoly market, right? So red means monopoly. Remember this, okay? So monopoly will produce here. How do I know? Marginal cost equal marginal revenue. Simple. So monopoly will produce 40 units. What price this monopolist will charge? $8. Why? Because this is on the demand curve here, right? So this is the monopoly price. This is the monopoly quantity, 40 and 8. Now let's change the color to green. I change the color to green, and now I show you the perfect. So if this monopolist is working under perfectly competitive market structure, right? So this is not an industry. This is a firm diagram. So monopolist will produce where marginal cost equal price. Okay. So marginal cost is given, demand curve is given, that is price. So this is the firm. One typical firm will produce at this point. So this firm will charge only $6 and produce $60. So now you can compare easily that monopolists will produce or restrict the level of production from 60 to 40. Why they are restricting? In order to create excess demand in the market, shortage. So when they create shortage, then they can charge higher prices. So they are restricting the output from 60 to 40 and charging higher price, 8 compared to 6. So from consumer's point of view, monopolist is better than, perfectly competitive market structure is better than monopolist. Okay. Then the second diagram is the comparison of consumer and producer surplus. So look at this diagram first, the diagram for perfectly competitive market structure. So I've used the green color, so I'm still using the green color. So this upper triangle, this triangle, that is area under the demand curve above the price, perfectly competitive price, $6. This is called consumer surplus, and this triangle is called producer surplus, that is above the marginal cost curve, supply curve, below the equilibrium price, that is $6. So that is producer surplus. So this is the maximum under perfect competition, right? Now compare this with a monopoly. So in the monopoly market, notice that consumer surplus, I told you the definition. Consumer surplus means area under the demand curve above the price, but in monopoly price is 8, not 6. So above 6 and below demand curve, this is the only area, this very small triangle, which is less than this large green triangle. So this is the consumer surplus. So consumer surplus is reduced. What is the producer surplus? Above the marginal cost curve, below the price, this whole region, see this whole region. So actually, if I show you, this was the 6th price. So this rectangle, this bold red color, this rectangle, this rectangle was actually the consumer surplus in the, if I show you the same rectangle here, this is this. This rectangle, this rectangle was consumer surplus under perfectly competitive market structure, but now it is included in producer surplus, that is to monopolists. So monopolists actually captures some of the consumer surpluses by charging higher prices. And then you have, since in under perfect competition, output was 60, but now it's only 40. So this orange triangle, this is gone. You don't realize, you don't see this side because of the lower, because of the higher prices. Demanders or consumers or buyers, they are not going to demand this area, right? So this area is lost. So this whole area, this whole orange triangle, that was actually earlier was the upper triangle was consumer surplus and the lower triangle was producer surplus. This whole triangle is gone. This is what we call inefficiency. Why inefficient? Because monopolies are inefficient. They're intentionally producing less in order to charge higher prices. They could have easily produced 60, but they're not, in order to make more profit. So because of this inefficiency, this orange triangle, it has a specific name or term. This is what we call deadweight loss. So this is called deadweight loss. Okay. Now, in defense of monopolies, sorry. So they capture large economies of scale in production. Of course, small firms can't produce on large scale. They engage in extensive research and development because of high profit motives into new techniques of production and new products. They attract high quality staff by offering relatively high wages, of course, and good working conditions. So these are some of the positives of monopolies. Then we have a natural monopoly. So I'm not going to discuss this diagram here. I have drawn another diagram that is much easier to understand. Why I'm not discussing this? Because it says the title says natural monopoly. By natural monopoly, I mean average cost is continuously decreasing. As you produce more, your cost is decreasing. But here, the cost decreases up to this point and then it starts increasing. So I have drawn that you can see in my notes, which I copied here. So this is a more actual diagram for natural monopoly. Notice I have continuously decreasing average total cost. So average total cost is continuously decreasing. And you know, when average cost is decreasing, marginal cost must lie below it, always. So you can see marginal cost is always below average total cost. If this is the case, what would happen? So this is a monopoly, natural monopoly. There's no licenses, there's no permits. This monopolist does not, have a specific ownership of a specific input. No, this producer has a monopoly power simply because of economies of scale. That this monopoly is producing on large scale, and therefore small firms cannot compete. Impossible. So if you are a very small farm, and you want to produce somewhere here, your cost will be very high. But those firms who are producing more, their cost is lower. Okay. Now, this natural monopolist will produce where? Where marginal revenue equal marginal cost. Same rule. So the rule is this is marginal revenue and this is marginal cost. So this is QM. So natural monopolist will produce at QM and charges PM price level. Okay. But in the same diagram, I'm going to discuss two more topics. Right? This natural monopolist, most of the time, is regulated by the government. For example, all public utilities. Right? If government does not control or regulate these natural monopolies, you'll be paying $1,000 for your electricity bill. Okay, so these monopolists, national monopolies, are being regulated by the government. So what is the regulation? There are two types of regulation. One regulation is what we call socially optimal price. Socially optimum price or optimal price, same thing, right? Okay. So what is SOP? Socially optimum price. What is SOP? Monopolists will ask or require this, not monopolist, sorry, government will require this natural monopolist to charge price that is equal to marginal cost. Remember, in perfect competition, we have price equal to marginal cost. So government will require or regulate these monopolists to charge at this price. Why? Because you can see price and marginal cost both are same. So this is the price. So this monopolist is required by the government to charge price SOP and sell this much unit of output. But that is not possible for this monopolist. You can see, because if monopolist charges this PSOP then and producing QSOP, at QSOP average cost is higher even than the price. So why this monopolist is going to produce QSOP and incurs losses? Difficult. So government can also tell at the same time that, okay, you charge PSOP and we will give you a subsidy equal to this amount so that you don't incur any losses. That is one possibility. But there's a problem with the subsidy as well. So the other option for the government is that, okay, why not you charge fair return price? What is fair return price? That you charge just that is equal to your average cost. So price, that is demand curve, which is demand curve is this, and average total cost is this. So just charge this price. This is called FRP, or fair return price. And then you can see price is also exactly equal to average total cost. So there's no loss, and monopolists will produce this. Now you must be thinking that why monopolists will produce here where there's no loss. They are earning actually normal profit. Remember, we talked about economic profit and accounting profit. So in economic profit, they have already included their opportunity cost, and therefore they are earning normal profit, not abnormal profit. So these are two types of government regulations in case of natural monopoly. These are the example of natural monopolies, public goods. So I'm not going to discuss this. You just read. So I just discussed since I showed you that diagram for natural monopolies, right? So I discussed this control first, basically this. That is government price setting, either at socially optimum price or fair return price. Right? The other options for the government is to tax this monopolist. And there are two ways. Lump sum tax, that is, okay, if you're earning 1,000 profit, just pay 20% as taxes. Or sales tax. Whatever your sales, you just pay in percentage, that 20% sales tax on these monopolies. And the other option is nationalization. Nationalization means just control that whole monopoly. So let's first discuss. I'm not going to spend more time on this. You just need to do this, right? So this is a diagram, self-explanatory. This diagram simply shows. Notice that I haven't shifted marginal cost curve because this is a lump sum tax. This is not per unit tax, lump sum tax. So the government will allow monopolists to produce at the same level where marginal revenue equal marginal cost, charge the same price that they want to, and then from their profit, portion of that profit is taken as a lump sum tax, right? So you can see the profit is taken per unit profit tax. So this whole, let me mark this whole, hold on. Now it should be there. So this is profit that is gone, and the remaining, this blue rectangle, this is the remaining profit of the monopolist. So government is actually taking just a share of their profit. Okay. The second is when you charge a sales tax, right? And then sales tax means you are increasing their per unit cost because they have to sell, they have to, they have to pay taxes based on their level of production, right? So every unit they have to pay taxes. It means their cost of production increases for each unit. That is why I shifted the marginal cost curve upward. So when marginal cost curve shifts upward, the level of production also changes, right? Initially they were paying this, they were producing this much. Now they're producing only this much. Okay, they are producing now less. Why? Because their cost of production has gone up. So now they are charging even slightly more prices. So basically, when government imposes sales tax on these monopolies, right, consumer will also share the burden of this tax in terms of higher prices. Let me go back here and see what is happening here. In lump sum taxes, the monopoly is still charging the same price. So before the tax and after the tax, consumer are paying the same price. So they are not sharing the tax burden. And monopolies will charge 100% from the monopolist. In sales tax, monopolies is shifting the burden on consumers as well. So this is what we have already discussed: socially optimum price, fair return price. This is nationalization. So nationalization, when the government or state acquires the monopoly, reluctantly or eagerly, either by compulsory or compulsory and uncompensated acquisition or by a buyout of the owners. In several countries, government actually just simply, acquire these monopolies, right, by force, basically. So the enterprise is then known as the Crown Corporation in Canada. It may or may not operate the enterprise to make a profit. It may or may not charge the socially optimum price. So nationalization does not mean that when government actually captures that monopoly, then government will actually sell the product at social optimum price. So that's all as far as chapter number 10 is concerned. Thank you so much. Take care. Don't forget to go through chapter number 10 from your textbook, and also solve practice questions on your course website and also on Connect website. Take care. Bye-bye.